Let's be honest, most people won't tell you outright that they don't like you. Instead, they'll hide behind polite smiles, vague compliments, and carefully crafted words that make them seem friendly on the surface. They'll shake your hand, laugh at your jokes, and even engage in casual conversation, but deep down there's an underlying discomfort, maybe even resentment, that they're too afraid to show directly. And that's the tricky part, isn't it? Because when someone dislikes you but doesn't say it, you're left in a confusing gray area. You might think you're on good terms with them, only to later realize they've been subtly undermining you the entire time. Maybe they never openly criticize you, but their actions, or lack of them, speak volumes. Maybe you felt this before, a gut feeling that something's off, but you couldn't quite put your finger on why. The problem is, if you don't recognize the signs, you'll keep investing your time, energy, and emotions into people who don't truly support you. And worse, you might start questioning yourself, wondering if you're imagining things, if you're being too sensitive, or if you're the problem. But here's the truth. Your instincts aren't lying to you. The signs are there. You just need to know what to look for. That's why in today's video, we're cutting through the noise. We're going to break down 7 subtle but undeniable signs that someone secretly dislikes you, but doesn't have the courage to say it to your face. And trust me, once you start recognizing these behaviors, you'll never look at certain relationships the same way again. Let's get started. We all know that one person, the one who always has something funny to say at your expense. They joke about your appearance, your habits, your achievements, and even your failures, all while wearing a playful smile. They'll brush it off with a casual, "Relax, I'm just joking," or "Don't be so sensitive." But if you really pay attention, their jokes always have a common theme. They highlight your flaws, never your strengths. At first, it might seem harmless. After all, teasing is normal in friendships, right? But here's the difference. True friends poke fun at you in a way that makes you feel included, not small. Their jokes are balanced with genuine support and encouragement. However, when someone is always making you the punchline, and the humor is laced with little jabs that make you second-guess yourself, it's no longer just teasing, it's a subtle form of disrespect. I remember a time when I was close to someone who did this constantly. No matter what I did, they had a joke for it. If I dressed up, they'd smirk and say, "Trying a little too hard today, huh?" If I worked on a new project, they'd laugh, "Wow, you're really taking this seriously. Good luck with that." At first, I played along. I thought, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I should just laugh it off. But over time, I noticed a pattern. None of their jokes were ever lighthearted fun. They always carried a sting, and they always made me feel like I wasn't enough. Here's why this matters. People who mask insults as jokes are testing you. They're seeing how much disrespect you'll tolerate before pushing further. It's a subtle way for them to assert dominance while keeping themselves in a safe zone. Because if you get upset, they can always blame you for taking things too seriously. And that's what makes this behavior so insidious. It's designed to make you doubt yourself rather than question them. So, what can you do? Start setting boundaries. The next time someone makes a joke at your expense, pause and ask yourself, was that really funny? Or was there something else behind it? And if it didn't sit right with you, don't be afraid to call it out. You don't have to be aggressive, but you can respond in a way that makes them think twice. Try saying, "What do you mean by that?" Or, "I don't find that funny." If they genuinely respect you, they'll take the hint and back off. If not, well, that tells you everything you need to know about how they really feel about you. At the end of the day, real friends don't need to put you down to feel better about themselves. They celebrate your wins, they support your growth, and they lift you up instead of tearing you down. If someone is constantly making you feel small under the guise of humor, it's time to reevaluate whether they deserve a place in your life. And speaking of subtle ways people show their true feelings, let's talk about another big sign, the backhanded compliment. Have you ever received a compliment that left you feeling off, like instead of boosting your confidence, it made you second-guess yourself? Something like, "Wow, I didn't expect you to pull this off. You actually look nice today. This is really good for someone like you." At first, these might sound like compliments, but there's something sneaky hidden beneath the surface. These aren't genuine words of encouragement. They're backhanded compliments, subtle digs meant to keep you in check. And here's the tricky part. They're wrapped up in just enough positivity that if you call them out, you risk looking too sensitive or too defensive. That's exactly why people use them. It's a passive-aggressive way to undermine you while still maintaining plausible deniability. If you get upset, they can always turn it around on you and say, "Geez, I was just trying to be nice." Why it matters. Backhanded compliments are more than just annoying. They're a power move. People who do this aren't just being thoughtless. They're actively keeping you from feeling too confident. Why? Because confidence is power. And some people, especially those who feel insecure about themselves, don't want you to have that power. Think about it. When someone sees you succeeding, growing, or improving, it might make them uncomfortable. Maybe they feel like they're falling behind. Maybe they're jealous of your progress. But instead of admitting that, they disguise their resentment as praise. It's their way of saying, "I see what you're doing, but don't get too comfortable. You're still beneath me." The psychology behind it. Most people who give backhanded compliments are dealing with their own insecurities. They see your potential and it threatens them. Instead of facing their own shortcomings, they'd rather plant seeds of doubt in your mind. If they can get you to question yourself, they don't have to deal with the uncomfortable reality that you might actually be doing better than them. It's the same reason why some people downplay your accomplishments. "Oh, you got promoted. Must be nice to have connections." "Wow, you lost weight. I could never diet that hard. I love food too much." "Your business is doing well? Well, let's see if it lasts." They want to make sure that even in your moments of success, you don't feel too good about yourself. How to respond. So what do you do when someone drops a backhanded compliment? Call it out. The next time someone says something like, "You're smarter than you look," don't just awkwardly laugh it off. Say, "What do you mean by that?" And watch them scramble. This forces them to confront what they just said. Most of the time, they'll either stutter through an excuse or quickly change the subject, because deep down, they know exactly what they were doing. And if they double down, that just confirms what you already suspected. They're not your ally. At the end of the day, real confidence isn't about avoiding negativity. It's about recognizing it and refusing to let it shape how you see yourself. The next time someone throws a backhanded compliment your way, don't just accept it, challenge it, because the moment you stop letting their words affect you, their power over you disappears. And speaking of subtle ways people show their true feelings, let's move on to another major sign, exclusion. When someone starts leaving you out, intentionally. You're scrolling through social media, and there it is, a picture of your friends having dinner, laughing, enjoying themselves at a party, or going on a weekend trip. There's just one problem. You weren't invited. At first, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a last-minute thing. Maybe they assumed you were busy. Maybe it really was just an accident. But then it happens again and again. Until eventually you start noticing the pattern. You're being left out on purpose. And that realization stings. Because exclusion isn't just about missing out on a fun night. It's about what it represents. A deliberate choice to keep you out. Why this matters. People don't just accidentally forget to invite someone over and over again. Social exclusion is often intentional. It's a passive-aggressive way of pushing someone out of a group without having to say it outright. Instead of confronting you directly and telling you they don't want to be around you anymore, they hope you'll just fade away quietly. And the worst part? When you finally bring it up, they'll almost always have an excuse ready. "Oh, we didn't think you'd be interested. It was a last-minute thing. We assumed you were busy." But here's the truth. People make time for who they want to make time for. If they truly valued your presence, they would have checked with you instead of assuming anything. The psychology behind it, why people exclude others. Exclusion isn't always about outright dislike. Sometimes it's about control. Groups naturally shift and evolve, and sometimes people start distancing themselves from someone they see as an outsider. But instead of having an open conversation, they take the cowardly route. They subtly cut you out, hoping you'll get the hint. There are a few key reasons people do this. They see you as competition. Maybe they feel threatened by you. your confidence, your success, or even just your personality. So instead of dealing with their insecurities, they try to keep you at arm's length. They're trying to shift the group dynamics. Social groups are like ecosystems. Sometimes people subtly try to push someone out in order to bring in someone else. They don't want confrontation. Some people avoid difficult conversations at all costs. Instead of telling you how they really feel, they let exclusion do the talking. But here's the thing, if someone truly respects you, they won't play games like this. How to respond. So what do you do when you realize you're being excluded? You could ignore it, but that only gives them more power. Instead, call it out. The next time you see your friends went out without you, don't just swallow the discomfort. Ask them about it. Say something like, "Hey, I saw you guys went out last night. Why didn't anyone invite me?" This forces them to acknowledge what they're doing, and their reaction will tell you everything you need to know. If they scramble for excuses or act defensive, that's a sign they know they're in the wrong. But if they brush it off or don't seem to care, then it's time to reevaluate the friendship. Because here's the truth. Real friends don't make you feel like an outsider. They don't make you question your place in their lives. If you constantly have to wonder whether you're included, then maybe it's time to stop chasing after people who don't value you. And speaking of people who don't value your time, let's talk about another major sign. When someone is always too busy for you, but somehow has time for everyone else. We all have busy schedules, work, family, personal responsibilities, and unexpected life events. Everyone gets caught up in the chaos of daily life from time to time. But here's the thing. People make time for who they want to make time for. If someone is always too busy for you but somehow finds time for others, the message is loud and clear. You're not a priority. Maybe you've experienced this before. You reach out to a friend to make plans, and they hit you with, "I've been so swamped lately, I just don't have time. Things are crazy right now. Maybe next week? Ugh, I'm just super overwhelmed. Let's catch up sometime soon." At first you understand. Life happens, you give them space. But then you scroll through social media and see them out for brunch, hanging out with mutual friends, or attending events they somehow found the time for. That's when it clicks. They're not too busy for everyone. They're just too busy for you. The difference between genuine busyness and a brush-off. It's important to distinguish between someone who's actually busy and someone who's subtly pushing you away. Here's how to tell the difference. A genuinely busy person will still make an effort. Even if they can't meet up right away, they'll text, check in, or suggest an alternative time. They'll say something like, "This week is packed, but how about next weekend?" Or, "I really want to catch up. Let's plan for a time that works." A person subtly brushing you off will keep it vague and non-committal. They'll keep telling you, "Maybe later," or "Let's see," without ever following through. They'll always seem available for others, but never for you. I had a friend like this once, someone I used to be close with. Every time I reached out to make plans, they had an excuse. "Oh, I'm slammed with work. I'm just not in the mood to go out these days." But then, like clockwork, I'd see them posting stories from a party or grabbing dinner with mutual friends. The first few times I let it slide, but after a while it became obvious. They weren't busy. They just didn't want to make time for me. Why this matters. The truth is, when someone consistently doesn't prioritize you, it's not about their schedule, it's about their priorities. If you constantly have to chase someone down just to get a sliver of their time, you're holding on to a relationship that isn't holding on to you. People who genuinely care will make time for you. Even in the busiest seasons of life, they'll check in. They'll send a quick text. They'll try to make plans even if it's just a short phone call. Because when someone truly values a relationship, they don't let it wither away. What you should do. If you notice someone is always too busy for you, stop chasing them. Instead of constantly trying to fit into their schedule, start valuing yourself enough to walk away. Try this. Stop reaching out first. See how long it takes for them to initiate a conversation or make plans. If you disappear from their life and they don't even notice, that tells you everything you need to know. At the end of the day, your time and energy are valuable. Don't waste them on people who can't be bothered to invest in you. Focus on the relationships where the effort is mutual, where you don't have to beg for someone's time. And speaking of effort, let's talk about another major red flag: when someone actively avoids physical contact with you. Physical interaction isn't just for romantic relationships, it's a fundamental part of human connection. A handshake, a pat on the back, a high five, or even just standing comfortably close to someone. These are all nonverbal ways people express trust, familiarity, and warmth. So what does it mean when someone actively avoids even the most casual physical contact with you? Maybe you've noticed it before. You go for a handshake, and they hesitate before giving you the weakest, most awkward one possible. Or you're in a group, and they subtly shift away when you sit too close. Maybe you lightly tap their shoulder while laughing, and they visibly tense up or step back. At first, you might not think much of it. After all, not everyone is naturally touchy-feely, right? But then you start noticing something odd. They're not like this with everyone. They're perfectly comfortable hugging other friends, playfully nudging people, or resting a hand on someone's shoulder during conversations. But with you, it's like you have an invisible force field around you. Why this matters? Here's the thing. Body language never lies. People can fake a smile. They can say all the right things. But the way they physically react to you is often the most honest indicator of how they truly feel. When someone instinctively avoids physical contact with you, it's a subconscious signal that they're uncomfortable around you. This kind of avoidance can happen for several reasons. They don't feel close to you. Physical touch, even in small ways, is a sign of comfort. If they're withholding it, they may not feel connected to you. They're harboring negative feelings. Maybe they secretly dislike you or feel some resentment, but they don't want to address it directly. Instead, their body language subtly shows it. They want to create distance. When people start emotionally or socially distancing themselves from someone, their physical actions follow suit. Of course, some people just aren't touchy with anyone. That's why it's important to compare their behavior with others. If they avoid all physical contact in general, it might just be their personality. But if they're warm and physically expressive with some people, but stiff and distant with you, that's a sign something deeper is going on. How to spot this behavior? Pay attention to these nonverbal cues in your interactions. Do they instinctively lean away when you're near? Do they flinch or stiffen up if you touch their arm or back? Do they keep their hands in their pockets or cross their arms when talking to you? Do they always stand or sit at a noticeable distance from you, even when there's room to be closer? These small behaviors might not seem like much, but when they happen consistently, they paint a clear picture. What you should do? First, don't take it personally right away. It's possible they're dealing with personal issues or they just have different comfort levels with touch. But if you notice they only act this way around you, it's worth considering why. If you feel comfortable, you can test the waters by casually initiating small interactions, like offering a handshake or a light touch on the arm during a conversation. Their reaction will be very telling. If they remain stiff and avoidant, it might be time to accept that there's an underlying issue in your relationship, whether spoken or unspoken. At the end of the day, people who genuinely like and respect you won't act like they need to keep their distance. And speaking of distance, let's talk about another painful but revealing sign: when someone completely disappears when you need them the most. They say tough times reveal true friends, and it's absolutely true. When life is good, when you're thriving, when you're fun to be around, it's easy to attract people. But what happens when you hit a rough patch? Maybe you lose a job, go through a breakup, struggle with your mental health, or just need a shoulder to lean on. You expect the people who claim to care about you to be there, but instead you're met with silence. No calls, no check-ins, no, "Hey, how are you doing?" Just nothing. Fair weather friends, here when it's fun, gone when it's not. I remember going through a particularly difficult time in my life, a personal crisis that completely turned my world upside down. Naturally, I reached out to the people I considered close friends, expecting at least a little support. But what happened? Crickets. The same people who were always down to party, who would text me when they were bored, who I had supported during their tough times, suddenly had every excuse in the book. "I've been so busy. Sorry I haven't checked in. I meant to reach out, but I've just had a lot going on." I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed quiet. At first, I made excuses for them. Maybe they really were busy. Maybe they just didn't know how to help. But then, I saw them hanging out with other people, posting on social media, living life as if nothing had happened. That's when it hit me. They weren't too busy, they just didn't care enough to be there. How to tell if someone is truly too busy or just doesn't care? To be fair, people do have their own struggles. Not everyone will be able to drop everything and be there for you 24/7. But there's a difference between a friend who's genuinely overwhelmed and one who just doesn't prioritize you. A real friend, even if they're busy, will check in. Maybe they can't physically be there, but they'll send a message, ask how you're holding up, or let you know they're thinking about you. A fair-weather friend disappears completely. They don't ask how you're doing, they don't follow up, and when you finally hear from them, it's only when they need something. Some people love to be around when you're fun, entertaining, or useful to them. But the moment you need emotional support, they vanish. That's not a real friendship. That's just convenience. Why this matters? Friendship isn't just about the good times. It's about who stands by you when life gets hard. If someone is happy to be around when things are easy, but disappears the moment you need them, they were never really your friend to begin with. You deserve relationships that are built on mutual support, not one-sided emotional labor, not friendships where you're expected to show up for them, but they can't be bothered when you need the same in return. What you should do: start paying attention to who actually shows up for you, not just in big dramatic ways, but in the small things. Who checks in on you without being asked? Who listens when you need to vent? Who sticks around even when you're not at your best? Those are the people worth keeping. And for the ones who disappear, let them go, because at the end of the day, life is too short to keep investing in people who wouldn't do the same for you. And speaking of betrayals, let's talk about one of the biggest red flags of all: when someone talks behind your back. Does this flow work for you? Let me know and I'll move on to the final section. We've all been there. You're talking to someone and they casually start spilling secrets about a mutual friend. They tell you things that weren't meant to be shared, adding little judgments and personal opinions along the way. At first, it might seem harmless, just a bit of venting, a little harmless gossip. But here's the reality. If someone talks about others to you, they're almost certainly talking about you to others. And that's where the real betrayal lies. Because when someone gossips, they're not just sharing information, they're showing you exactly who they are. They're proving that trust means nothing to them. Why gossip is more than just harmless talk. Some people justify gossip by saying, "I'm just concerned," or "It's not that big of a deal." But make no mistake, gossip isn't just words, it's a weapon. It's how people damage reputations, stir up drama, and make themselves feel superior by tearing others down. And when you find out that someone you trusted has been doing this to you, it cuts deep. I remember a time when I confided in someone I thought was a close friend. I shared something personal, something I assumed would stay between us. But a few weeks later, I started noticing people acting differently around me. Conversations felt weird. People were whispering, and then it all made sense. The person I had trusted had been spreading my words like wildfire. The worst part, when I confronted them, they played it off. They said things like, "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just venting. I thought they already knew." But here's the truth. If someone truly respects you, they don't share your personal business with others. How to handle backstabbers. So what do you do when you catch someone gossiping about you? You have two choices: confront them or cut them off. If the relationship is worth salvaging, have an honest conversation. Say, "Hey, I heard you told people about private information. Why did you do that?" Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know. If they take accountability, there might be room to rebuild trust. If they get defensive, downplay it, or shift the blame, that's your sign to walk away. People who refuse to own up to their actions will do it again, and again, and again. At the end of the day, trust is non-negotiable. If you can't trust someone to respect your privacy, they have no place in your inner circle. Actionable insight: protect your energy. If you suspect someone is gossiping about you, stop sharing personal details with them immediately. Observe how they behave. Are they always involved in drama? Do they seem to know everyone's business? Do they get a little too excited when talking about other people's problems? If so, distance yourself. You don't need a dramatic confrontation, just quietly step back. Because the truth is, people who thrive on gossip will eventually expose themselves. Final thoughts. Know your worth. By now you've seen the 7 major signs that someone secretly dislikes you but hides it. Maybe you recognize 1 or 2 behaviors from past experiences. Maybe you see these patterns happening right now. But here's the key takeaway. You deserve better. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, respect you, and genuinely want the best for you. Don't waste your energy trying to win over those who subtly tear you down. Because at the end of the day, life is too short for fake friends. And when you start recognizing these red flags early, you'll free yourself from people who never truly had your back in the first place. Does this final section wrap up the script in a strong and impactful way? Let me know if you'd like any refinements. After breaking down these 7 subtle signs that someone secretly dislikes you, one thing should be clear. You don't need to be paranoid, but you do need to be aware. Life is too short to waste on people who don't truly support you. You shouldn't have to second guess whether your friends respect you, whether someone's compliments are genuine, or whether you're being excluded on purpose. Real connections don't leave you feeling drained, insecure, or undervalued. This isn't about holding grudges or assuming the worst in people. It's about recognizing patterns and making smarter choices about who you invest your time and energy into. Because here's the truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Stop trying to win over the wrong people. We've all been guilty of holding on to relationships longer than we should. Maybe it's out of nostalgia. Maybe we hope people will change. Maybe we just don't want to be alone. But the reality is, some people are not meant to stay in your life forever. And that's okay. The key is knowing when to let go. Ask yourself, do I feel good around this person? Or do I feel like I have to prove myself? Do they uplift me, or do they subtly tear me down? When I leave a conversation with them, do I feel energized or emotionally exhausted? If you constantly feel undervalued, ignored, or disrespected, it's time to step back and reassess the relationship. Your energy is precious, protect it. Think about the most supportive, uplifting people in your life, the ones who genuinely want the best for you, the ones who celebrate your wins, help you through your struggles, and never make you feel small. That's where your energy should go. Instead of chasing after those who don't appreciate you, invest in the people who actually care, the ones who show up when you need them, respect you, both in private and in public, make you feel seen, heard, and valued. Final thought, pay attention to how people make you feel. At the end of the day, relationships should feel mutually fulfilling, not like an uphill battle. So as you move forward, pay attention to how people make you feel. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. You deserve relationships that bring you peace, not ones that leave you questioning your worth. Surround yourself with people who make you feel valued, respected, and genuinely supported. Let go of the ones who don't. Because the moment you stop tolerating less, you make space for so much more. And that's real power. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever experienced these signs in a relationship? How did you handle it? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content on self-growth, relationships, and mental resilience. See you in the next one.